This is Chiles, and a name that has taken me a lot of repetition to get. And this is Chiles' Roadmap to Success. Basically, Chiles is a really good dog. She doesn't really have a lot of behavior problems. The main problem is the separation anxiety and the accents. Now, the accents, I think one of them might be related to not being able to go outside when she needed to go. I think the other one was a separation anxiety issue. Sit. Sit. Remember, every time you give a treat, say the command word after the treat goes in the dog's mouth. And so for separation anxiety, it is, like I talked about in the video above, it's a panic state. And so don't ever get upset with the dog that is chewing your house. It's just saying, I'm so insecure when you're not around, I have to go chew through the door to come and find you. A lot of people think the dog's vindictive, intentionally peeing in the house or destroying things. It's not. They're just in a panic state trying to find you. So we talked about a lot of things. I'm not going to go over the things for separation anxiety in the video above, but we talked a lot of other things that are indicators or that are related to it. The Guardians didn't really have a lot of rules for her. There's some rules that they were using. They were using some older school methods, and so I kind of went over some different ways of achieving the same results, like using X mats to keep the dog off the furniture. Some of the rules we went over, not being on the furniture. She goes in the bed, so I'd make sure the bed, if she goes on the bed, if you want her to get down, touch her nose with the treat, throw it off the bed. She licks it off, say off instead of out. I also recommend the Guardian have their daughter sit, go around the house with a bag full of treats, and just teach the dog to go out of her room. Just go in the room, touch her nose, toss the treat right outside the room. When she licks it up, say the word out. And then she'll come back, do it a second time, and do it every doorway in the house, and then go back to every doorway in the house and do it the opposite direction. Make the dog go out this way. Eventually you say out, and the dog's happy to leave. I do the same thing with the stairs. The stairs is great. She's not a super high energy dog, but she does need exercise. And if and a great way to do it is just go to the top of the stairs with about 5 or 6 treats. Throw one at the bottom of the stairs. She runs down the stairs and gets it. We come up with a command word that needs to go downstairs. Maybe call it first to this first level. Come up with something funny though. I remember always try to come up with funny command words because dogs can read facial expression. When we have kids in the house, when kids start visiting, if her word is chill to lay down and charge to go forward and retreat to go backwards and Darios to eat their food and all these things that make people smile, the kids are like, you have such a cool dog. So when she goes down, say maybe down, and then when she comes up, again, these are just because I'm not thinking creative, when she comes back up, we call it hotel or whatever it is. And then count each up, down. The first time I do it is just have a bunch of treats and toss her up, down until she stops coming up. And then count each up, down as 1. And then you'll find out your maximum threshold. Maybe she can do it 28 times. Well, then when she needs a little exercise, maybe we do like 15 times, or 10 or whatever it is. So getting her a little bit of extra exercise when she's being a little rambunctious. She's not a super rambunctious dog, but it's a nice way to do that. All right, and then it also teaches her to wait. That would be one of the rules. You have to wait for the humans to go up the stairs, then we call you up. And so that by using the exercise and coming up with a command word that needs to go up and down, we create a vocabulary to have her stay, which we have a stay command. Then you go to the top of the stairs and you say vacation, up. So always release her first and then give her the next command afterwards. And this way she gets used to being behind the humans. For dogs, whoever's in front is the leader, whoever's behind is considered the follower. And so we need her to identify as a follower as much as possible. I went over a number of rules. This is about to be passive training, we'll see. There we go, see she laid down. I'm gonna say chill. Guardian's not sure which word they're gonna use. When she does a behavior that you like, on her own, organically, without any influence, make sure you recognize and pet that. I say recognize or testify if somebody missed it. So come up with a funny word, and when they do that, don't ask. Just if somebody says testify to me, I'll look at the dog. If the dog's standing there, I pet it and say come. I'm assuming it just came if it's standing. If it's sitting, I'll pet it and say sit. If it's laying down, I'll pet it and say chill or crash or whatever it is. The more that we reward the dog for desired actions and behaviors, come, the more the dog will do those behaviors. And now the dog does things we like to get our attention as opposed to things we don't like. Let me see what else. So for the stairs, like I said, make her stay, go up the top of the stairs, then give her the command word to come. Or release her, then ask her to come up. Other rules for the dog bed, for the bed upstairs, she likes to sometimes jump up on the bed and hangs out for a little bit and then she jumps down. Well, we don't want her to just jump on her own volition. So if she does, we would touch her nose with a treat, toss it like I showed you earlier, and then when she gets down, get settled in bed however you want, and then you invite her up. Always try to play it hard to get, always try to get the dog to come to you rather than you going to the dog. That helps to shift the leader-follower dynamic so the dog identifies you as the leader. Another rule would be we're in the room that we don't hang out very much, but if we were eating a snack on the couch here, the dog would not be allowed on the area rug in front of the couch. Shouldn't be allowed in the kitchen when we're preparing food, in the dining room when food's on the table. Now for the kitchen and for the dining room, we can do things to help the dog prepare for this by helping her practice the behavior before we actually do it. So maybe if we're going to eat dinner, instead of actually sitting down to eat dinner first, when we're about 5 or 10 minutes away from dinner, we microwave a piece of bacon. And we go sit down at the table, we cut up the bacon, put a little bit on everybody's plate, crash, or chill. Flop is what I call going on the side. And anytime she tries to come to the kitchen, we make her leave the way that I showed the guardian off camera. And then once she sits or lies down beyond the line, then we can actually put all of our food away, the bacon food away, and serve the actual meal. She's warmed up, she knows what to do. We fed her with this structured way just a couple of minutes ago. It wasn't hard. It was pretty easy actually compared to a lot of my clients, but it'll get easier as you practice. Same thing with asking her to leave the area rug, or if I haven't seen the other room, but the room that the guardians hang out in. Use your everyday opportunities to help her practice skills. So have Hazel come and sit down on the couch and have her give her a snack of some goldfish or whatever, and then you can enforce having the dog stay a certain distance away from Hazel while she eats her snack. She'll get a snack every day, so we practice every day. After a while, the dog just gets used to doing that, and they'll start doing that behavior for you automatically. Making her sit before you let her in or out of the door. Sit, say it once. If she doesn't sit within 3 seconds, walk away, sit down, wait for 1 minute, and go back to the door and command her to sit again. If she doesn't sit this time, we'll walk away for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. Keep doubling the length of time. And as soon as she sits down, boom, open that door. Let me see, what else did we go over? Or other rules that we went over. Waiting for permission to eat food and elongating that. We didn't go through the door, but message me later if you guys want that video, and I'll show you how you can teach a dog how to stay, because she is a bit of a door dasher. I'd recommend putting a line of painter's tape and kind of a box around the door, and then before we open the door, we move her back. Well, like I talked about the bacon, we can help her practice this one as well. So when the guardians are actually coming home, they can actually park on the street, text the partner, and say, door exercise, question mark. So they come to the door and they knock on the door, and the other person goes, you wash your hands first, you put the stove on medium or whatever it is. Most of the time people come to our house, we're not prepared for it. We're doing water painting with the child, and we're cooking dinner, and we're on the phone, and then somebody comes to the door, the dog's barking, and we have to like wipe our hands and turn the stove down and tell the kid to go here and get to the door and run away. And the dog's like, I don't see the human ever moving this fast. What's different? Oh, there's some jerk at the door. Look at what the jerk at the door is doing to my humans. I have to really go bark at these people. So by preparing and setting it up ahead of time, we wash our hands, we're ready, we're casual when we answer the door. The first thing we do is we move her back beyond the boundary. Then we walk backwards towards the door, and then we break down each individual element of opening the door the way I showed you, until eventually you can open the door, invite the person to come in, and she stays behind the boundary the whole time. Now, she does react to the doorbell and knocking. The guardians may want to distract her and stop her from doing the barking from knocking at the door. I'm not going to do it now because she's going to bark. It's going to be loud. But just every once in a while, you're just hanging out and she's content, there's nobody at the door, knock on the wall 3 times or knock on the table. She's going to hear that and associate with there and run to the door and, shoot, there's nobody here. And each time that happens, she's going to be less apt to do that. Now, one of the rules is to stay off the furniture because the guardians want that, but also there's this is a wonderful house. I have one of my best friends lives down the street from here, so I spend a lot of time in this neighborhood, but it's kind of a little bit on a slope. And so the dog sits on the couch and looks out the window, down the slope, onto the street. And that gives the dog a very commanding position. And I think that the lack of rules has confused her to think she needs to be in charge of security. And because the humans don't listen to her, that stresses her out. And that makes her more reactive. And she's not super reactive, but stressed out in other situations. And I think it's absolutely correlated to her separation anxiety. So the more that we can demote her and help her understand that you're not in charge of security, the more that she's going to feel like, oh, I can just go back to chasing my tail and doing other dog-friendly stuff. Speaking of dog-friendly stuff, I'd like the guardians to spend like about $100 on a whole bunch of dog toys. And get a variety. Get a couple Nylabones. They should be rigid. Get for different flavors. And don't get just the cartoon bone. Get different shapes. Get her some real bones, non-smoked, just white. They're boiled. There's nothing nasty on them. I also like to give my dog antlers, and water buffalo horns are also great, but the water buffalo horn, make sure it's solid. Some of them are hollow and they'll just splinter and chew it to bits. But when dogs are stressed out, they like to chew on things to soothe themselves. If she only has like 1 or 2 toys, which I believe is the case now, she doesn't have a lot of variety. And just like us, we get kind of bored with things. So if they get her like 15 toys or whatever, and then each day for 15 days she gets a new toy, well that makes, and I would have her find it on her dog bed. So that creates more of an association. Especially if we're going to put a dog bed in the other room that we hang out in. I like to have a dog bed in every room so the dog has a designated place to go. Also, when we have kids, the kids are okay now, but sometimes kids are not good at letting the dog have a reprieve. And we didn't talk about this during the session, but I'm a big believer of making the kennel and the dog bed off limits to the children. So if I'm overwhelmed and it's too much for me to deal with as a dog, I can go and sit on the dog bed and the kids are not allowed to interact with me. It's a safe place for the dog to go. I've read a number of case studies of dogs that bit children that have no history of aggression, was the sweetest dog ever, and the children just wouldn't let the dog go, and the dog got overheated, and it nipped the child to say no, because the parents weren't paying attention. And so to create that structure, the kids are young enough where that'd be great. She's snoring a little bit. Let me see. We went over, so the other thing you might want to do, for other toys, give like a couple ropes, a couple squeaker toys, a couple plush toys, and if she destroys the plush toys, once she opens them and just take the stuffing out and leave the carcass, she'll continue chewing on that. Also, I'd give her some edibles, like some bully sticks, some kneecaps, some cow's ears, tracheas, chicken's feet, different things like that. Give her one of those, maybe, if we have a lot of people coming over and she's being a nuisance, which she really isn't, but sometimes we can distract the dog with those things. And also give them those higher value chew items, especially if we're gonna leave for separation anxiety. That's not a bad thing to do either, is every time you leave, I get a bully stick. So now, positive, I don't want you to leave, but I really like bully sticks. I'm kind of stuck between 2 things. Now, if you come home and the bully stick has not been chewed, that dogs with real separation anxiety will not chew on things. So that tells you we need to practice the stay more. I like the guardians getting in the habit of asking the dog to come to them as opposed to going to her. I like them to not walk around her. If she's standing, walk through her so she gets used to walking away from them. If she's sitting, that's different. Anytime you're walking towards the dog and it backs up, use passive training, say the word retreat or reverse. Every time she goes forward, say charge or march or whatever the word is that you want to make it go forward. The more that we use these funny command words, the better. Now, I'd also like the guardians to sit down and come up with a list of the official command words and write them all down. And then if somebody's using the wrong word, we say vocabulary. And it'll just help us. It makes it easier for the dog if we only use one command word. Let me see, what else? We also talk about petting with a purpose. Now, she doesn't demand attention, but she does come, a lot of dogs will paw, excuse me, scratch you, bark at you, or things along those lines for attention. If we validate the dog, or do what the dog wants us to do when it does those things, it's validating the dog. Yes, I'm in charge of the humans, I am responsible for them, and they don't listen to me, so I have to be more protective, and that probably is related to separation anxiety. So the more that we can reward the dog for desired, or redirect the dog to desired behaviors, the better. So the dog comes and puts his chin on me, ask the dog to sit. If it's already sitting, ask it to come and sit over here or lay down. It just has to do something to change its state. Eventually it'll start prepaying by offering you to sit before, as a way of asking for attention. When it does that, make sure we recognize that. Say testify or recognize or whatever the word is. I usually say paycheck if you've forgotten to pet with a purpose, but you might want to come up with a different one. Also, I went over my method of kind of bribing children with chocolate for doing good behaviors. So if you forget how to do that one, you want to do it when Hazel gets a little bit older and the little one, the really little one gets older, let me know and I am happy to share you the video or the link that I did that article. Let me see, what else? Anything else we went over that I've forgotten to talk about? I'm sure there's a lot, but any major points you can think of?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. So what we'll do is we're getting ready, we'll wrap this up here in a sec.
Oh, maybe the 4 consequences.
Oh, the 4 consequences. Okay. So the first, I'm just going to tell you what they are. I'm not going to go through all the detail. First one is to hiss 1 time per incident and match your energy level with the intensity of your hiss. Second one is to stand up abruptly, turn to face her, and keep on walking. I guess I'm going through all the detail. Keep turning and twisting until she stops moving, then take 2 steps backwards, pause for 1 second, and go back to what you're doing. If you go to sit down, you should expect the dog to come back a second time, so don't sit too deeply in the couch. The third one is to march deliberately at the dog until the dog turns sideways away from you. Then we stop in place and we go to the second consequence. We're pivoting until the dog's stationary. Then we take the 2 steps backwards and pause for a second. The only time that doesn't apply is if the dog is in a designated no-dog zone. So the dog's not supposed to be on the carpet here. If it crosses the carpet, I march at it. If it turns sideways and still on the carpet, I would ignore that and keep on bumping into the dog until he gets across the line. Now, if you have to go to the side to block and you do the side a second time, the third time step forward and to the side to block. So the dog essentially moves a little bit further away. I also talked a little bit about maintenance. Now, keeping the dog off the couch should prevent her from kind of practicing that guard dog looking down on the street. But we do have a big, nice door here, and the Guardians like to leave the door open because it's a nice part of town and we have a lot of shade. But that can help her practice reacting at certain times. So what the Guardians might want to do is look for a film that kind of makes it a smoky glass, and just on the bottom part of the door. That way the dog goes to the door, she can't see out, but the humans, we go to the door, we can see out instantly. Let me think what else. I think that's pretty much the bulk. Now, if there's anything I forgot to go over this video, or you forgot to go over, you have other problems, please call me or text me. Texting is the fastest way to reach me. I get about 50 emails a day. Emails are slow, and I always feel bad if a client, it takes me a week to get back to the client, but if you have 50 emails a day and you work as much as I do, there just aren't enough hours in the day to do it. A text I'll see on my new watch or on my phone, and I'll get back to you right away. Just text me her picture, and I've already forgotten to say her name again.
Chiles.
Chiles, that's right. Text me. I had a question about Chiles. When she's eating, she's doing this, she's doing that. I'll get back to you right away. And like I said, if you forget you want to do the leadership exercise, or you need a video to teach you, how to teach dog to go to the dog bed or whatever it is, message me and I can share those with you as well. Also, get a dog bed. Oh, Chiles. Yes, her food is not agreeing with her right now. It smells like a little cabbage earlier. So get a dog bed that you can put in the main room. I prefer to put it on the TV because from the dog's perspective, wow, look at them. They're just looking at me all day long. We're just watching the TV that's above. But sometimes we have to put it off to the side. That's fine. Now, to get her to go there, just toss a treat. When she licks it up, come with a fun word. Maybe you call it... I was going to say Santa Barbara, but that's 2 words. Maybe you call it Goleta, which is right outside Santa Barbara, or call it State Street, or whatever it is. And so come up with this. Montecito, there you go. Yeah, that's an expensive word. Yeah. But basically, just toss a treat on there where she licks it up, say the word Montecito, and then do that about 10 times, and then wait for her to lose interest, and then leave one there, and don't point it out to her, and wait for her to find it. When she does, say the word Montecito. Now, dog beds, I find the best place to get them are Groupon. The dog beds I'd like you to get are the ones that are going to look like the cushion of your couch, not filled with feathers, but just that are foam inside. Make sure it's a light gray, a light white, or a light cream, no pattern. The pattern, sometimes you leave the treat on, she won't see the pattern. She won't see the treat through the pattern. All right, well, this is Chiles. Well, if you can see, this is Chiles. She's snoozing and farting, and this is her roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you need it.